Tennessee This Week from WATE's 6 on Your Side starts now.
Hello and welcome to Tennessee This Week. Good to be with you. I'm Don Hudson. All this week and really the end of last week as well, communities across East Tennessee have been inundated with the threats of violence involving our schools. Here in Knox County alone, 14 children have been arrested over school threats since Friday the 6th. We have been hearing from local education leaders and law enforcement ever since these arrests began. And angry Knox County Sheriff Tom Spangler, you see him there, saying his department will come after people who make threats. Doesn't matter if they're kids. Knox County District Attorney General Sharm Allen saying kids who make threats will be prosecuted and could remain in custody for at least 6 months. Also this week, we heard from Knox County School Superintendent John Ryswick. You can take a listen to some of what he had to say during his interviews.
To monitor your students when you have conversations with them about their social media. A lot of these are coming through social media for us right now. Talk to your students, even if you think your student's not involved, and how serious these false threats are. Because, again, we just talked about some of the litigation and some of the charges that can be for your students. It's also important too, social media. I mean, again, as a parent of 2 daughters myself, you're not always up on all the latest technology, but have those conversations to the extent you can be involved in that. That's very important for us. And then obviously, if when in doubt, report. Both students and family.
Now to discuss this issue, our panel of political pundits joining us today: Michael Covington, Courtney Piper, and of course Craig Griffith, all here. Thank you very much for being here. I'm right out of the gate. I'm curious. What are you hearing about? Are you hearing any specifics about this? Because we say school threats of violence, boy, that is a wide range of what it could be. What are you hearing that is happening at these schools?
Well, obviously you have to take these school threats seriously because there's been a spat of school shootings that have resulted in the loss of life. So, you have to take it seriously, but the problem for law enforcement and school administrators, in my opinion, is separating real threats from just bogus statements by teenagers. And how they do that, how the board addresses the policies, if they have a behavioral threat assessment protocol for these students and for the schools to see which ones are real and which ones aren't. And I researched this issue a little bit and came to the conclusion that this is happening across the country. Every school, ever since the Georgia school shooting, has had, most every school systems have seen an uptick in threats of violence against the students and the administrators at school. And the one thing that people say nationwide is how a way you can determine between a real threat and just a bogus statement is the access to guns. Does the person making the threats have access to guns in their house, in their person, in their neighborhood? So there's lots of things you can do to try to drill down and see. We have all seen the video of the Georgia school shooter on his front porch with his father discussing with his actions 16 months before the shooting. And he did have access to guns. And the question comes up now to me is, why wasn't there a follow-up? There needed to be something that in place that would continue to check on him because he had access to guns.
Well, let's stay on that vein there for a minute, because as you mentioned, they do have, the school system does have a behavioral threat assessment management policy. And I'm wondering, because they have to take it seriously, is the most of this just an attention type thing, or just trying to be cute, or is this a cry for help for some of these students because of mental health issues?
Well, Don, I'm going to talk about this as a parent of Knox County School students, 3 of them, and then also
and
as
younger, by the way, younger than anyone who's been arrested, much younger.
Yes, and also as somebody who owns a public relations firm and has for 16 years. So my kid's school went on a hard lockdown Monday before any of these larger social media threats were identified. And myself and several other parents, our sole source of information came from media and the Knox County Sheriff's Office. We did not get a lot of detailed information directly from the school system. So this is, the school system gave us a master class in how not to handle communication with parents. So by allowing the Sheriff's Office, KPD, and the media to be our sole source of information that seemingly was uncoordinated with the school system whatsoever. Parents had to go looking on the sheriff's social media sites, looking at KPD's public releases, going to WATE and figuring out, okay, who's reporting on what. So by ceding that trusted source of information to other entities, Knox County schools harmed their relationship with parents. And so when they did that, when they did not provide parents with detailed and timely information, people made up their own information. Right. It spread, and people made choices and decisions that may have been misinformed. So we know on September 11th, the attendance in Knox County schools was 68%. It's usually 92, 93%.
Right. It was really low, yes.
And that is a direct result of Knox County dropping the ball with communicating to parents what was going on with these threats, what was the response, and where are we now?
Yeah, and I was told, I don't have the numbers in front of me, that number is actually lower than during the COVID times when kids were going to school during COVID, which was around 88% at the time. So what, Michael, do you think is the role now of parents versus administrators? I mean, they're asking parents to talk to their kids. My guess is some of the parents aren't seeing this news, aren't hearing about it, because I've brought this up to people when I run into them. They go, oh, this morning, in fact, I was getting an alignment in my car and talking to, he had 2 students in Knox County. He didn't even know what I was talking about. So who needs to step up and talk to the kids? And is the new normal to say, hey, the beginning of the school year, we're having assemblies, and our homeroom teachers are going to go through not just this, and this, and lockers, and this and this. We're going to start talking about school violence and its consequences. Who needs to pick up the ball?
Well, for starters, I think the superintendent needs to assume a role of responsibility for not having given guidance to principals. There should be a protocol. There should be a manner in which you go about notifying parents that there was a perceived threat in the school. So I think the superintendent needs to own up to the fact that he's fallen short in that regard. Obviously, I think that parents need to be more aware. But as you said, I thumb through the Sentinel each and every day very, very closely. I saw every story.
Right.
I glossed right over the headline. No one was killed. No one was hurt. The threats were benign.
Right.
Yeah, we move on. But then when the numbers got to be larger, I thought, okay, this has a genesis. There's a reason for this. We need to get to the bottom of what that reason is, and we need to do that very quickly. Beyond that, right now in real time, every single school in Knox County should be having an assembly. And there should be a very stern discussion about consequences and repercussions. This is what is going to happen if, in fact, you do or are involved with something like this in the future. And they need to have, we can do Zoom and video of any person anywhere in the world. Sharm Allen, the district attorney, Thomas Spangler, the sheriff, and the city police officer or the city police chief should all do clips where they say, this is what's going to happen if, in fact, you do these kinds of things again. And make it certain that the person beside you, the person in front of you, if you're involved in this kind of thing, even the remotest threat will be dealt with fairly harshly, and it will have lasting repercussions. So I think that there are a lot of things that need to be done, but the consequence and repercussion aspect of it needs to be driven home to 9, 10, 11, and 12-year-olds on up, so that they understand there's a consequence to this.
And on that vein, because I've been doing this for more than 30 years, I don't think I can ever remember at the beginning of a school year having this many school threats, no matter where I've lived across the country. But immediately I started thinking kind of how they'll bring a car in that's smashed up and have that DUI, alcohol, assembly for the high school student, and make sure that they understand this is what it looks like when you drive, that they're going to have to do something, because kid after kid seems to be doing this, as I think some are 11, 12 years old.
Well, the Board of Education has a role here to play. The Knox County School Board of Education, their responsibility is to hold the administration accountable. So at that next school board meeting, if I were a school board member, I would be asking the superintendent, what is our protocol with communication? How are we putting Knox County schools in the driver's seat of communicating with parents? What are we doing moving forward to communicate with students what happened and what will happen if these sorts of threats persist, to Michael's point? I would be asking a lot of questions of the administration of what is our communication protocol? How are we communicating with students? How are we communicating with parents? And what can we do more efficiently moving forward?
And the other part of this is the law has changed here. This went from like a misdemeanor to a Class E felony. So these kids could suffer some serious consequences, which probably will set some of them back.
Well, and that's, the point. This is very difficult to distinguish between real threats and idle conversation.
Right.
And police psychologists that I have read has said that one of the #1 factors of a lifetime criminal is that as a juvenile, he was experienced the juvenile justice system.
Yeah.
So if you put all these students into the juvenile justice system, and you have to take them seriously. And I understand the need to, to enforce the rules, but you're going to expose them to things that might result in a lifetime of crime. And is that what we want to do? Have we solved the problem by doing that? So, this is something that the police, sheriff, and the school system have to get together and figure out, how can we assess, someone just typing some things on Facebook and pushing send versus someone who's taking real steps toward, researching previous mass shootings in schools and looking how to buy guns or how to make bomb parts and things like that. So it's going to require a coordinated effort, and they're going to have to expend some resources outside of their normal duties to find this out. And it may require budgeting by the county commission and the city council to allow the resources for the sheriff and the police department to find those resources and use them to the community's benefit.
And as far as we know, because they aren't sharing a lot of details, we have not heard of guns or explosives or actually things. We're just hearing threats, and then they don't share any details. Let's hope that was the case. It's just kids making these comments, and they didn't really have anything to back that up. And that the message gets out there, and this doesn't just keep snowballing into something even worse. Anyway, we need to take a quick break real quickly here. Stay with us here on Tennessee This Week. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. A bill to ban cell phones in schools will soon be up for debate in Tennessee once again. Now, the original bill moved through the legislature in early 2024, but it failed when members of the House Education Administration Committee had a split vote. Republican Representative Rebecca Alexander out of Jonesboro says that she plans to reintroduce the bill, and Governor Lee saying that different variables need to be weighed in with this. He says it really boils down to two things: parents wanting to be in contact with their children and cell phones being a major distraction.
I believe that we should look really seriously about, and in part because of the willingness of teachers for the most part to limit or eliminate the use of cell phones in a school setting. Huge distractions, very difficult for kids to learn. As we saw in Georgia, the interaction between parents and kids in a crisis situation is something that is important, and it ought to be considered. I think generally, we should find a way to balance those two.
And that really is the key here, to try to find a balance, or do more or maybe do less. I'm curious, and we started here last time. We'll start at the other end of the table with Michael. Is this something that needs to happen statewide so that everyone's on the same page, or is it something that they could just leave up to districts?
I'm just not clear on why this is necessary. This is a dramatic step. You've got parents who really feel a need to be in communication with their child. You want to take their phones away, and you take away a measure of security that parents have. Inherently, a belief that having a cell phone enables them to stay in touch with their child in the event that their child needs them. And I have to empathize with parents in that regard. I do realize that there's a distraction in the classroom. I get that. Again, we're talking consequences and repercussions. Your phone is a responsibility. In that same discussion about how you need to conduct yourself in school, how you need to deal with your cell phone and the consequences of misdealing and mishandling your cell phone in class and in school. I just think that the schools need to be more vigilant about how they enforce stated rules.
I mean, is this something like a school passing on? Your children, I'm assuming, too young for cell phones.
Too young for cell phones.
They still have to. We're trying to help you out, but you know it's not going to happen right away. But your stance on this, because they are in school with probably kids who have cell phones.
I am perplexed, Don.
You're perplexed. Wow.
I thought the Republican Party was the party of limited government and the party of, you know, kind of keeping these kinds of decisions local. So for the life of me, I cannot determine why a state representative wants to make a decision for all of the school districts in the state of Tennessee when each school district has a school board that is responsible for setting policy. So if this is an issue for a particular school district, those elected representatives for that district can make those decisions at that time with the information they have from parents and teachers. So while this might be a really big issue in a more metropolitan area, let them figure out what that solution might be. It might not be a huge issue in a rural area. So let each individual school district make a choice about what they would like to do with information from their direct constituents.
My understanding is most schools, once you go into the class, you have to put it away. So whatever that means, putting it away, and then the teachers can, you know, control it from there. Is that where we need to go with this?
I have one question for Courtney.
Yes.
Are you familiar with our state legislature?
You know, I've read some things.
Do you know what they do every 6 months? They try to determine everyone's behavior.
It is very non-GOP-ish for them to do this.
That's because you're in the supermajority. But I'm all for it. Yeah. I'll say these cell phones are tremendous distractions, and I'm sure, you know, moving up through teenage years and things like that. It reminds me back in the old days, you know, when you got on an airplane, they all say, please turn your cell phone off. You know, we're going to crash, you know, if you don't turn your cell phone off. And, you know, that wasn't the case. But they are a tremendous distraction for all of us, and especially in the school environment. And I do agree with leaving it up to the local educational authority to make that determination on what's the best policy and how to address it. But they are a tremendous distraction, and I'm all for, you know, getting them out of the schools and getting the school books in, because now, you know, children learn on Chromebooks.
Right.
You know,
they do already. Most kids already have access to that.
Yeah. So you know, I'm thinking that they need to figure out a way that they can use their Chromebooks, not use their cell phones, you know, so they get their technology fixed through their Chromebook.
So they get the lessons without interacting with each other. Do you?
And by the way, you know, I grew up, you know, I was in the dark ages, and my parents were able to get in touch with me as well. So you know, it's not.
They just called the school, right?
Yeah. So yeah, they had the school on speed dial. So.
Yeah. Oh, geez, that might get into a whole different can of worms if we get into Craig Griffith back when he was in high school.
There you go.
Those of you who went to school with Craig, email us.
That's right.
We'd like to hear those stories. All right. Still ahead on Tennessee This Week, we will be talking about choice that Knoxville voters will be facing in the November election. And it really doesn't have to deal with one candidate or another, but how they actually vote. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. This week, we got our first look at Knox County's November election sample ballot. There are 2 amendments to Knoxville City's charter on it. One of them gives Knoxville voters an opportunity to vote on an overhaul to city elections. Now, if passed, Amendment number 2 would let voters cast ballots in primary and general elections for all city council seats by effectively making all council members at large. Now, at the moment, primary races are held only within a given council district. So let's bring back our pundits here. How it was it not working, or is this the state making a law that's affecting from Memphis to Knoxville and all that?
Well, back to our previous conversation. This all came from a state representative who represents Knox County, Elaine Davis, who does not live in the city. She decided in her infinite wisdom that she didn't like how the city of Knoxville was doing its elections, and she wanted them to change. There was nothing wrong with the way that we did elections. She just did not like it. She doesn't even live in the city. So now the city of Knoxville is put in this position where we have to change how the city does elections, or Nashville will tell us how to do it. So that is the question on this ballot. Correct. The state government will tell us how to do it.
So we have to decide, otherwise they will. But this is every city in the state is
No,
Looking at
this
No,
is
this
is
specific
just
to
the
Knoxville.
city
Knoxville.
of Knoxville.
Yeah, okay.
So what's on the ballot, Don, is a very researched proposal from one of our city council people, our vice mayor, who said, okay, if we've got to redo this election, our election process, how should we do it? Which is candidates would live in a given district. You have to live in a given district, but all of the elections will be citywide. The primary would be citywide, and the general would be citywide.
And right now, the primary is
just in the district.
And then the citywide votes.
Correct. Correct.
So what is the impact that this is going to have? Mike, we'll start with you.
Money.
Money?
And junk mail. It's good. Look, if you're running in District 2, in the primary, you've got to send mail all over the city, and that's pretty costly. The majority of the people around the city do not know you, and they have no interest in you or your issues in your District 2. So they're going to receive a bunch of mail from you, and they're going to throw that mail away. You're going to spend a ton of money trying to reach people who have no real interest in you. Not only that, they're not going to represent you. They don't know you. They don't know your issues. So the way we had the system set up, I could kind of deal with it, but I would tell anyone that asks me, and there will be a lot of people that will ask me, how should I vote on this? I'll just say no, vote no on both. And when you vote no on both, you will default to a system where you have the opportunity to vote with your fellow district voters on the person that will represent you, and the problem is solved.
Now, the challenge with that, because right now how the election is set up, you actually have, as a citizen, influence over 9 city council people. If we go to just a district system, so if you do vote no and this does get voted down, your influence as an individual goes from 9 city council people to 4, your district and 3 citywide. As a voter in the city of Knoxville, I want to be able to have that influence and say over all of those 9 members. So I would vote yes because I want to have that sort of influence over city council so that when they're voting on doing things, they're taking my best interest in addition to somebody who lives in South Knoxville or West Knoxville or whatever, and they feel like they have a responsibility to the entire city, not just their district.
So how does this end up changing things? Or go ahead with what you were going to say first.
You know, I worked in city government for 18 years, and I really never heard anyone complain about the election method. You know, so I'm not sure why. This was a bill, you know, proposed, you know, trying to fix a problem that didn't exist. So other than the person that advanced it, State Representative Davis, felt that it would be a way to elect more Republicans to a citywide office if they were just district. Of course, you know, after you're elected in the old method, you ran in the districts, but then for the general election, you ran citywide anyway.
Right.
So, and as Michael points out, that really increased the amount of money that it costs to run for an office. So, is it going to change anything? Only time will tell on that. And, you know, when this was adopted many years ago, it was felt that it was a way that all neighborhoods in the community, all voices, minorities and majorities, would have a say in city government. And Andrew Roberto's proposal, that's one of the amendments, the vice mayor of the city, you know, attempts to do that by giving everyone a voice in every election. But I might point out that's not the case in county commission. It's not the case in the school board, the U.S. House, and the state house. You're all elected from representatives from districts. So it's not a method that isn't working in other areas. So, you know, and it just bothers me that this one person, the state representative's problem, is upsetting and causing all this commotion, requiring all these amendments and things for something that there wasn't a problem.
So let's just say with the changes, Michael mentioned it cost you more money probably to get your name out there. That's going to impact who can run, but can there now be an easier way to impact elections by somebody with a lot of money that comes in and says, I'm going to help these people?
I don't necessarily see that as the issue, although, yes, will it cost more money and more time and more effort to run citywide twice? Sure, but the outcome of that is individual citizens have more control and influence over their city council. So, you know, it's going to mean that it's going to attract candidates who are serious candidates, who are going to be able to talk to all city voters and not just maybe, you know, fiefdoms, little neighborhoods and niche issues. They're going to have to be able to communicate to the folks in what was a district and citywide, and to me that's a benefit. That is exactly why the city of Knoxville runs much more efficiently as a government.
Courtney, that will be the last word. We want to thank our pundits for being in here. We want to thank you for watching. We'll see you next week on Tennessee This Week.
The views of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Nexstar Broadcasting.